My name is Wendy Dixon. I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, my parents stood up during their 40th wedding anniversary dinner and announced to the 30 guests, "We're taking the whole family to Hawaii next week for another celebration." Everyone applauded. My sister squealed with excitement. I smiled too, already picturing palm trees and ocean air, my first real vacation in years. Then I made the mistake of asking a simple question. "What time is our flight?" My father stared at me like I'd spoken another language. My mother's smile tightened. And in front of everyone in that room, my dad said, "You don't need to know, Wendy. You're not part of this trip. Someone has to stay behind and take care of the kids." 30 people heard it. 30 witnesses to the moment my family made it clear I wasn't really family after all. What they didn't know was that I had a secret, one I'd been quietly building for 3 years. And that night, I decided it was finally time to use it. Before I explain what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe if this story connects with you, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. To understand why I eventually walked away from everything I knew, I need to take you back to the beginning. The Dixon family lives in a white colonial house in the Boston suburbs. 4 bedrooms, a 2-car garage, and a lawn trimmed to HOA perfection. The kind of place that silently announces success. My father, Harold Dixon, retired 3 years ago after working as a branch manager at a regional bank. My mother, Patricia, has never held a paid job, but she'll tell anyone she's busier than any CEO, running the church women's committee, organizing neighborhood fundraisers, and protecting what she calls our family's reputation. Then there's my sister Megan, 3 years younger than me, married to Derek Hartley, a corporate attorney whose firm she mentions whenever possible. They have 2 kids, Oliver, who's 5, and Sophie, who's 3, and a brand new Lexus SUV that always gets the best spot in my parents' driveway. My Honda Civic, which I've driven for 10 years, stays on the street. "Wendy, move your car," my mother would say whenever I visited. "Derek's bringing the Lexus, and guests notice the driveway first." I never argued. I just moved it. That's what happens when you're the invisible one in your family. You stop noticing all the small ways they've already decided you don't count. The better parking spot, the nicer seat at the table, the way my mother introduces my sister by her husband's job. While I'm just Wendy, she helps out. I work as a part-time accountant, mostly remote clients, flexible hours, modest income. Nothing impressive by Dixon standards. But I never told them about the other thing I do, the thing I started 3 years ago, after my life fell apart in a different way. I never told them I'd learned to really see. Let me show you what helping out means in the Dixon family. Thanksgiving. I arrive at 6 a.m. to start the turkey. I set the table with my mother's Wedgwood china, the set I'm allowed to wash but never use. I arrange the flowers, polish the silver, and manage the timing of 7 side dishes. Megan shows up at noon in a cashmere sweater, greets everyone, and sits down to be served. Christmas follows the same pattern, plus wrapping all the gifts my mother buys because her arthritis is acting up, though it never stops her from playing bridge 3 times a week. Birthday parties for my niece and nephew mean I handle entertainment, cleanup, and backup babysitting. Last year, I spent 8 hours running Oliver's dinosaur-themed party while Megan went for a manicure because she needed a break. The one time I asked if I could skip a family event due to a client deadline, my mother's tone turned cold. "Family comes first, Wendy. We all make sacrifices." Except I was the only one actually making them. The breaking point doesn't come all at once. It shows up in small moments. Like the Christmas when my gift was a kitchen apron that said "World's Best Aunt" in glitter. Megan gave it to me, smiling like she'd been thoughtful. I wore it every time I came over to cook, clean, and babysit. The truth finally hit me one random Tuesday night while I was scrubbing my mother's Le Creuset pot after yet another family dinner. I realized I couldn't remember the last time anyone invited me anywhere without expecting me to work. 3 years ago, my life had already fallen apart. I'd been dating a man named Kevin for 4 years. We talked about marriage, kids, and a future. Then one evening he sat me down and said words I'll never forget. "I love you, Wendy, but I don't think I'm in love with you anymore. You're just there. Always just there. Like furniture, like wallpaper." After he left, I wandered into a pawn shop downtown. I'm not sure why. Maybe I was trying to fill the emptiness. That's when I saw it, a Canon DSLR camera, used but in good condition, priced at $180. I bought it with money I should have saved and told no one. That camera became my secret. I started photographing things most people overlook: elderly women waiting at bus stops, the tired faces of overnight janitors, the rough hands of street vendors. People society looks straight through, the same way my family looks through me. I called the series Invisible Women. I created an anonymous Instagram account. No face, no real name, just images. Over 3 years, it grew to 12,000 followers. People who saw what I saw and understood it. I kept the camera wrapped in an old cashmere scarf at the back of my closet. It was the only thing I ever kept just for myself. 3 weeks before my parents' anniversary party, I received an email I almost deleted as spam. It was from a gallery in Monterey, California, Coastal Light Gallery, asking if I'd be interested in discussing my work. I stared at the message for 20 minutes, my hands shaking, before I even processed it. I didn't reply right away because good things didn't usually happen to people like me. There is one person in my family who truly sees me: my Aunt Ruth, my mother's younger sister. My mother calls her the family disappointment. She never married, chose ceramics over a real job, and moved to Carmel by the Sea 20 years ago to open a small cafe with a pottery studio in the back. My mother has never forgiven her, saying Ruth threw away her potential. I've been calling Aunt Ruth every Sunday night for 7 years without my mother knowing. She was the first person I ever showed my photos to. I sent her one image just to test the reaction, and her response made me cry. "Wendy, this is extraordinary. You have a gift." No one had ever described anything I did that way. She encouraged me to keep shooting and keep posting. 3 weeks before the anniversary, Aunt Ruth said something that changed everything. She told me she'd shared my Instagram with a gallery owner she knew in Monterey, Marcus Coleman, who was looking for emerging artists. I nearly dropped the phone. That was the same gallery that emailed me. She confirmed it and said he wanted to talk to me about a solo exhibition. The idea felt unreal, an actual career opportunity. Aunt Ruth's voice was calm but firm when she said I deserved it and didn't need anyone's permission to pursue what I loved. She'd learned that lesson late, she said, and I didn't have to. That night, I replied to Marcus Coleman's email. Now let me take you to the night that changed everything: my parents' 40th wedding anniversary. According to my mother, it was a milestone that required a proper celebration. 30 guests, a catered menu I would help manage to save money, and an evening honoring 4 decades of what she called a picture-perfect marriage. Preparations began a week earlier. I took 3 days off from my accounting work to help. I ordered white roses and peonies exactly as my mother specified. I hand-wrote 60 place cards in the calligraphy she insisted on. I coordinated with the caterer, pressed tablecloths, and polished the Waterford crystal glasses my parents received as a wedding gift 40 years ago. On the day of the party, I arrived at 7 a.m. wearing jeans and a t-shirt because there was no reason to dress up when I'd be in the kitchen for the next 10 hours. By 6 p.m., the house looked flawless. Candles glowed on every surface, and the dining table stretched across the living room, set for 30 with my mother's finest china. I changed into a simple black dress, nothing flashy, nothing meant to stand out. "Wendy?" My mother's voice stopped me in the hallway. She looked me over, frowning slightly. "Is that what you're wearing?" "It's black. I thought it was appropriate." She hesitated. "It's fine, I suppose. Just stay in the background. Today is about your father and me." I nodded, like I always did. Guests began arriving at 7. Men in sports coats, women in cocktail dresses, old coworkers, church friends, neighbors with lawns as perfect as ours. 30 people who believed they knew the Dixon family. None of them knew me, and in 3 hours, that wouldn't matter anymore. Megan arrived at 7:15, timed perfectly for effect. She swept in wearing a red wrap dress, Diane von Furstenberg, she made sure everyone knew, with Derek behind her in a charcoal suit, and the kids dressed like they'd stepped out of a catalog. My mother rushed to her, praising her looks, Derek's success, and the grandchildren. I watched from the kitchen doorway holding a tray of bruschetta. "Everyone, you remember my daughter Megan and her husband Derek. my mother announced. Derek's a partner at Whitmore and Associates. They made him partner last year. We're so proud. Applause followed, along with congratulations. No one mentioned that I'd been doing Derek's taxes for 3 years, unpaid, of course. I moved through the room with appetizers, refilled wine glasses, and answered questions from guests who didn't recognize me. "Are you with the catering company?" one woman asked as she reached for a crab cake. Before I could reply, my mother stepped in. "Oh, that's Wendy, my other daughter. She's helping out tonight." The woman smiled politely and turned away. My mother didn't notice. She never did. Later, Derek approached me holding Sophie while Oliver tugged at his jacket. "Can you take them?" he said. Not, "Would you mind?" Not, "Thank you." Just, "Can you?" as if handing over bags. I took them. I fed them dinner in the kitchen, wiped juice off Sophie's dress, and told Oliver 3 stories to keep him from running into the living room. When I finally came back out, dessert was being served. I hadn't eaten all day, and no one had saved me a plate. At 9, right after my mother's tiramisu, the announcement came. My father stood and tapped his champagne glass with a fork. The room went quiet as 30 faces turned toward him. "Patricia and I want to thank you all for being here," he began, his voice warm and practiced. 40 years of marriage, 4 decades of building this family, this home, this life. My mother smiled beside him. Megan took Derek's hand. I stood near the kitchen doorway, holding a dirty dessert plate. To celebrate this milestone, my father continued, "We have a surprise." He paused. My mother's eyes shone. "Next week, we're taking the whole family to Hawaii, 1 week at the Four Seasons in Maui. A second celebration, just the Dixons." The room filled with murmurs of approval. Megan squealed, "Dad, that's amazing. The kids are going to love it." Something lifted inside me. The whole family met me too. For once, I wouldn't be working. I'd be included. I stepped forward, letting myself smile. "That sounds wonderful. What time is our flight?" The room froze. My father glanced at my mother. A familiar look passed between them, one I'd seen countless times but never fully understood until then. "Wendy," he said slowly, "you don't need to know the flight time." Silence followed, tense and uncomfortable. "I don't understand," I said. He cleared his throat. "Because you're not going." 30 people watched as my father excluded me from the family vacation. "Someone has to stay behind," my mother added calmly. "Megan and Derek need a real vacation. You'll watch the children." "But I—" "Honestly," my mother interrupted, her tone sharp, "you don't have anything important going on. Megan works hard. She deserves a break." Megan, who hadn't worked since Oliver was born. Megan, who had a nanny 3 days a week and still complained of exhaustion. "It's only a week," Derek added, avoiding my eyes. "The kids love you." I stood there in my plain black dress, holding a dirty plate while most guests looked away. One woman whispered to her husband, "Poor thing, she must be used to it by now." My hand shook around the champagne glass. I set the plate down, then the glass. "Of course," I said. "I understand." I smiled, the practiced smile of someone who helps, who doesn't complain, who is always just there. But something inside me shifted. It didn't break, it cracked, like a fault line before an earthquake. I excused myself to the kitchen, leaned against the counter, and closed my eyes. For the first time, I began forming a different kind of plan. The party went on without me. I washed dishes mechanically while laughter drifted in from the living room. Megan eventually came in, her red dress brushing the doorway. "Don't be upset, Wendy," she said, touching my arm. "You know how it is. Derek and I really need this time together. It's been stressful with the kids." I kept washing. "You're so good with Oliver and Sophie. They won't even notice we're gone." I said nothing. She sighed, the way she always does when she thinks I'm being difficult. "It's just a week, and you don't have a boyfriend or anything tying you down. Your schedule is flexible." Flexible, meaning my time didn't matter. She pulled out her phone. Derek made a list. Schedules, allergies, Sophie can't have strawberries, and Oliver might need eardrops. "I'll text you everything." She didn't ask. She assumed. Derek appeared, loosening his tie. "All set. We're leaving early tomorrow to pack. Your mom wants photos." They left before I could respond. I stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the list Megan had sent, and a single thought became clear. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as staff, and staff can quit. Near midnight, after the last guest left and my parents went to bed, I was folding tablecloths when I remembered a client file I needed to send. My laptop was at home, but my mother's was on the counter. I opened it. Her Gmail was already logged in. I should have closed it, but I saw my name in the subject line. Hawaii Arrangements, Wendy Situation. I clicked. The thread was between my mother and Megan. My mother had written, "Keep Wendy here to watch the kids. She doesn't have anything important to do. Derek's right, it's like free help. She should be grateful." Megan replied, "Totally agree. She'll probably feel useful for once. It's kind of sad, but at least it works for us." I read it 3 times. Free help. Be grateful. Kind of sad. I took screenshots, emailed them to myself, deleted the sent message, and cleared the history. I drove home at 1 a.m. My apartment was small and outdated, beige carpet and secondhand furniture, but it was mine. I sat in the dark, staring at my phone. Marcus Coleman's email glowed on the screen. He wanted to see my full portfolio in person. He was excited. I could go. I called Aunt Ruth. She answered immediately. I told her everything. When I read the words "free help," my voice cracked once. After a pause, she said, "I have a spare room above the cafe. The gallery is 20 minutes away. You can leave, Wendy. You can choose yourself." I hung up at 2 a.m. By 6, I was packing. 3 suitcases, my camera gear, my laptop, the cashmere scarf. I left behind the world's best aunt apron. For the first time in 32 years, I chose myself. If you've made it this far, let me ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between your family and yourself? Between staying and losing who you are? Tell me in the comments what you would do. And if this story matters to you, please hit like. Now let me tell you what happened when I told them I was leaving. 2 days before my family's Hawaii trip, I drove to my parents' house for the last time. My mother was in the living room planning vacation outfits. Megan sat on the couch scrolling through resort reviews. Derek was upstairs, likely on a work call. My father sat in his armchair reading the paper, physically present but mentally elsewhere, as usual. "I need to tell you something," I said from the doorway. My mother didn't look up. "If this is about the kids' schedule, Megan already sent it." "It's not about that," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I'm not watching the kids. I won't be available." That finally got their attention. Megan looked up sharply. My mother's hands stopped over a pile of sundresses. "What do you mean, not available?" she asked. "I have a work opportunity in California," I said. "I'm leaving tomorrow." "California?" My father lowered his paper. "What kind of work?" "Professional," I replied. "Something I've been working toward." I didn't explain further. I didn't owe them details or anything at all. Megan's expression tightened. "Wendy, you can't be serious. I'm counting on you. We planned everything around this." "You planned around me without asking," I said quietly. "I'm not canceling my life because you assumed I didn't have one." The silence was heavy. Then my mother stood, her voice cold. "This is incredibly selfish. Megan needs your help. Family comes first." "Family comes first," I repeated, "except when it comes to inviting me to Hawaii." Her mouth opened, then closed. For once, Patricia Dixon had no response. My father cleared his throat. "If you leave, don't expect us to welcome you back with open arms." "I understand," I said, and for the first time, I truly did. The next 24 hours were a lesson in emotional pressure. My mother called 6 times, each voicemail more dramatic than the last. "You're tearing this family apart. Your father is devastated." Megan cried all night. "The kids keep asking where Aunt Wendy is going." Megan tried another tactic, controlled vulnerability. "I don't understand why you're doing this to me. I'm your sister. Don't you care about us?" Then came the message that almost broke me. "You're going to end up alone, just like Aunt Ruth. Is that what you want?" I stared at it for a long time. They meant it as a warning, something meant to frighten me. But Aunt Ruth had her own business, her own art, her own life, built on her own terms. She was happy. Maybe becoming Aunt Ruth wasn't a threat. Maybe it was a promise. I turned off my phone. Before leaving Boston, I walked through my empty apartment. 3 suitcases sat by the door. Everything else stayed. The secondhand couch, the beige carpet, the life I'd been living for everyone else. I taped my spare key to an envelope and slid it under my landlord's door. Month-to-month lease, paid through January, a clean exit. I loaded my car as the sun rose. My Honda Civic, 10 years old, reliable, and quietly judged by my mother for years, was about to carry me into a different life. I didn't look back when I pulled away. The drive from Boston to Carmel by the Sea takes around 45 hours if you rush. I didn't. I took 5 days, stopping at roadside motels, eating in diners where no one knew my name. Somewhere in Nebraska, I pulled into a rest stop and watched the sunset stretch gold and pink across the prairie. I photographed it, my first image taken as a free woman. On the third day, my phone buzzed while I checked directions. A text from Megan. Mom says if you're not home when we get back from Hawaii, you're dead to her. I read it once and deleted it. She was already acting like I didn't exist. At least now I was alive somewhere else. On the fourth day, I called Aunt Ruth from a gas station in Arizona. I'm about 8 hours out, I said. Your room is ready, she replied. Fresh sheets, ocean view, and Marcus wants to meet you tomorrow afternoon if you're ready. Tomorrow? My stomach flipped. That's fast. No, she said calmly. You've waited 3 years. This isn't fast. It's finally. When I crossed into California, something inside me shifted. The Pacific appeared on my left, wide, endless blue. I rolled down the window and breathed in salt air for the first time. I cried, not from sadness, but from relief and possibility. At 7 p.m. on the fifth day, I pulled into the driveway of the Ceramic Cup, Aunt Ruth's cafe and pottery studio in Carmel by the Sea. She waited on the porch with her arms open. Welcome home, she said, and for the first time in 32 years, it felt true. Carmel by the Sea didn't feel real at first. Storybook cottages, galleries on every corner, ocean mist drifting through cypress trees. Aunt Ruth's cafe sat 2 blocks from the beach, with blue shutters and lavender-filled window boxes. The pottery studio filled the back half, where she taught classes and sold her work to curious visitors. My room upstairs was small and bright, with a white quilt, a desk by the window, and a view of the ocean that made my chest ache. Over dinner, Aunt Ruth explained my role. You'll work mornings, 6 to noon. After that, your time is yours. Thank you, I said. She waved it off. Don't thank me, just build something. That's enough. The next morning, I woke before dawn, tied on a simple canvas apron embroidered with the Ceramic Cup logo, and learned how to make pour-over coffee. Locals greeted Ruth by name. Tourists lingered over scones. I took orders, wiped tables, and talked with strangers who had no idea I'd left my entire life 5 days earlier. By noon, I'd made $37 in tips and smiled more than I had in months. At 2 p.m., I walked 3 blocks to Coastal Light Gallery. Marcus Coleman was nothing like I expected. No sharp suit or intimidation, just a tall, weathered man with silver hair, kind eyes, and rolled-up sleeves. Wendy Dixon, he said, shaking my hand. Ruth's told me about you, but the work speaks for itself. He showed me the gallery, white walls, natural light, carefully displayed art. I've reviewed your Instagram closely, he said. Invisible Women is exceptional. There's honesty in those images most photographers spend years chasing. He stopped at a photo of an elderly woman waiting alone at a bus stop. This one made me reach out, he said. There's patience in her eyes, or resignation. She waited 40 minutes, I said quietly. No one stopped. Marcus nodded. You see people, truly see them. That's rare. Then he said, I'd like to offer you a solo exhibition, 15 pieces. Opening in 6 weeks. We cover production. You receive 60% of sales. I signed the contract that Tuesday afternoon as sunlight filled the room. 15 photographs, late August opening. Standard terms, fair terms. What overwhelmed me wasn't the business, it was seeing my name in print. Artist Wendy Dixon. A document confirming my work had value, that I had value. I thought of all the unpaid labor, all the invisible effort, all the years without recognition. For the first time, my name was attached to something that mattered. Invisible Women, Portraits of the Overlooked, Marcus read aloud. Do you approve? It's perfect, I said. I signed. He countersigned. The papers were notarized. Congratulations, he said. You're officially represented. I left the gallery holding the contract to my chest, proof that I was never nothing. While I was building something new in California, my family was discovering what my absence meant. I didn't see it myself. I learned later through messages, voicemails, and one uncomfortable call from my father. Hawaii, apparently, was a disaster. Without me, Megan and Derek couldn't enjoy a single adults-only dinner. Oliver melted down on the beach when no one packed his special sand bucket, the one I always remembered. Sophie developed an ear infection, and no one had the pediatrician's number because I'd always managed that. My mother spent most of the trip complaining about service, calling the concierge repeatedly about minor issues. Without me there to hold everything together, the cracks showed quickly. She sent her My back twice. "This isn't relaxing at all," she reportedly complained. "Who planned this trip?" My father, wisely, didn't remind her that she had planned it herself. The messages began arriving on day 4. "Wendy, where are the kids' medication records?" "Wendy, what's Oliver's bedtime routine?" "He won't sleep." "Wendy, the restaurant doesn't have a kids' menu. What are they supposed to eat?" I didn't reply. I was too busy printing proofs at a photography lab in Monterey, choosing frames, and meeting with a journalist from Carmel magazine who wanted to interview me. But absence has a way of teaching people what they've been taking for granted. On day 6 of their Hawaiian vacation, Megan did something she had never done before. She searched my name on Google and, for the first time, found something other than a blank page. 6 weeks later, I stood in the center of Coastal Light Gallery and struggled to believe it was real. 15 of my photographs hung on the walls, each printed large and framed in simple black. The gallery glowed with soft lighting. A string quartet played in the corner. Marcus's idea, not mine. A bartender in a crisp white shirt poured champagne. 50 guests moved through the space. Local artists I'd met through Aunt Ruth, collectors Marcus had invited, and the Carmel magazine journalist already taking notes. These were people who had come specifically to see my work displayed on gallery walls with price tags that made me lightheaded. I wore a navy dress, simple and elegant, nothing attention-seeking. My hair was down for once. I'd even put on lipstick, something I rarely did. Aunt Ruth appeared beside me and pressed a glass of champagne into my hand. "How do you feel?" "Terrified," I admitted. "What if no one buys anything?" "Someone already has." She nodded toward a woman in pearls studying the centerpiece of my exhibition, the bus stop photograph that had first caught Marcus's attention. A small red dot marked the placard beside it. "That's Mrs. Peaton. She owns half the art in Monterey County. She just bought that piece for $3,000. $3,000 for something I created." "Wendy." Marcus approached, grinning. "I want to introduce you to someone from the magazine. They're considering you for next month's cover feature." Cover feature. Magazine cover. My face, my name, my story in print. I was midway through that introduction when the gallery door opened and everything shifted. Megan and Derek walked in, still sunburned from Hawaii. They looked completely out of place. Megan wore a floral sundress better suited to a beach brunch than an art opening. Derek had his phone out, already frowning at the screen. They scanned the room with expressions I knew well, the look my family wore whenever they encountered something beyond their understanding. Then Megan saw me. "Wendy?" She rushed forward with her arms open, as if we were reuniting after a long separation she'd been dreading. "Oh my God, we've been so worried about you." 50 guests turned to look. The string quartet faltered for half a beat, then continued. "Megan?" I said calmly. "This is unexpected." "We had to come," she said, eyes wide and earnest. "We flew in yesterday. Mom found your Instagram. She's been calling everyone trying to track you down." Derek stepped in behind her, nodding at me like we were business acquaintances. "Wendy, nice place." "It's a gallery," I said. "My gallery opening." Megan blinked, finally taking in the photographs, the guests, the champagne, the price tags. "You did all this." Her confusion sounded genuine. "Since when do you do this?" "For 3 years," I replied. "You never asked what I did in my free time." Aunt Ruth materialized at my side, a quiet wall of support. Across the room, Marcus watched closely, ready to step in if needed. Megan leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Wendy, I have news. I'm pregnant again. Number 3, and I really need you to come home. Derek's work is insane right now. Mom isn't helpful with the kids. I need you." There it was. No apology, no congratulations, just need. Always need. The words hung between us. How many times had I heard that? How many times had I dropped everything, rearranged my life, and made myself small enough to fit the role they assigned me? "Megan," I said quietly, "I'm in the middle of my opening night." I know, and this is lovely," she said, waving at my life's work like it was a cute pastime. "But we can talk about that later. Right now, I need to know when you're coming back." "She's not coming back," Aunt Ruth said, her voice sharp and steady. "She lives here now." Derek stepped forward, irritation flashing across his face. "With all due respect, Ruth, This is family business. Family business? Aunt Ruth laughed, short and cutting. You mean the family that uninvited her from vacation and called her free help in emails she wasn't meant to see? Megan went pale. Around us, guests stopped pretending not to listen. I noticed the Carmel magazine journalist's pen moving quickly. We didn't mean it like that, Megan stammered. How exactly did you mean it? The voice came from Mrs. Piton, the collector who had just bought my photograph. She stood nearby, champagne in hand, watching with open interest. I'm sorry, Derek said tightly. Who are you? Someone who just paid $3,000 for that young woman's art, Mrs. Piton replied, nodding toward the bus stop photograph. And someone very curious why her family thinks she should abandon her career to be a babysitter. The temperature in the room dropped. Megan looked at me, desperation in her eyes. Wendy, please, let's talk privately. Let me pause here. If your family showed up on the most important night of your life, not to celebrate, but to pull you back into a life where you barely existed, what would you say? Tell me in the comments. I really want to know. And if you want to hear what happened next, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Now, here's what I said. I didn't retreat to a corner. For 32 years, I had made myself small. I had whispered, accommodated, disappeared. Not that night. I stepped forward into the center of my own exhibition and spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. Megan, I understand that you're pregnant. Congratulations sincerely, but I won't be coming back to Boston to be your childcare. Wendy, I'm not finished. My voice stayed steady. You can hire a nanny. You can hire two. Derek earns enough at Whitmore and Associates, and spending money has never been an issue for you. What you can't do is hire me because I was never paid. Megan's mouth opened, then closed. I felt the guests leaning in. This isn't a hobby, I continued, gesturing to the walls. This is my work. I've been building this for 3 years, while everyone in our family assumed I had nothing important to do. And to be clear, I added, pointing to Mrs. Piton's purchase, that piece sold for $3,000. Tonight, I've sold 4 pieces totaling $8,000. My work has value. I have value, and I won't give that up to go back to being free help. Silence followed. Complete silence. Derek coughed awkwardly. Megan's eyes filled with real tears this time, not performative ones. Then Marcus began to clap. Aunt Ruth joined him. Mrs. Piton raised her champagne in a quiet toast. One by one, the other guests followed. Applause spread through the gallery. Not for the photographs, but for me, for the moment I finally said enough. I didn't smile or gloat. I simply looked at my sister and said, I hope your pregnancy goes well. I truly do. And then I walked away. 20 minutes later, the gallery door opened again. I was talking with the Carmel magazine journalist when I saw them, my parents standing at the entrance like they'd stepped out of a bad dream. My mother wore her Burberry trench coat, reserved for important occasions. My father stood behind her in a blazer, uncomfortable and out of place. They scanned the room until they found me. Patricia Dixon crossed my gallery as if she owned it. Wendy? Her tone was the same one she'd used when I was 8 and tracked mud onto her clean floors. We need to talk. The journalist raised an eyebrow. I excused myself and intercepted my parents before they could create another scene. You came all this way, I said evenly. Of course we did, my mother replied. You disappeared. You left your family when we needed you most. Her voice shook with righteous anger. And now I find you here playing artist while your sister is pregnant and struggling. Megan is pregnant and wealthy, I corrected. She isn't struggling. She's inconvenienced. Don't be cruel, Wendy. This isn't you. I took a breath. You're right. It isn't the version of me you wanted, the one who did whatever you asked, but that Wendy was never seen. She was only used. My father cleared his throat. Wendy, your mother is trying to say... I know exactly what she's trying to say, Dad. I've heard it my whole life. Family comes first. Make sacrifices. Don't be selfish. I met his eyes, but I wasn't part of the family trip to Hawaii. Remember? So which is it? Am I family or not? Neither answered. My mother recovered first. Hawaii was just one trip, she said dismissively. You're exaggerating. Someone had to stay with the children. Someone, I repeated. Why me? Why always me? Because you have time. You don't have a husband. You don't have children. What else would you be doing? I'd wondered if I would ever use those screenshots. Part of me hoped I wouldn't have to. But standing there in my gallery, surrounded by my work and my witnesses, I realized some truths need to be spoken out loud. I took out my phone. "Let me read you something," I said steadily. "This is an email you sent to Megan before the anniversary party." My mother's face went white. "Keep Wendy here to watch the kids. She doesn't have anything important to do anyway. It's like having free help. She should be grateful we give her something to do." The gallery fell silent again. Every eye was on us. "And Megan replied," I continued, "she'll probably feel useful for once. It's kind of sad." Megan, standing a few feet away, looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. "Wendy," my father began. "Where did you?" "It doesn't matter where I found it. What matters is that you wrote it." I lowered my phone. "I'm not reading this to shame anyone. I'm reading it so you understand why I left. You didn't see me as family. You saw me as staff. And staff also has the right to quit." My mother's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. For the first time in my life, Patricia Dixon had no words. The journalist from Carmel magazine kept writing. Derek broke first. "This is ridiculous," he snapped, stepping forward. "Wendy, you're making a scene over nothing. Your family asked you to babysit. So what? That's what families do. Not everyone gets to run off and pretend to be an artist." "Pretend?" Mrs. Peaton's voice cut through the room, cold and precise. "I just paid $3,000 for her work. I don't spend that kind of money on pretending." Derek turned to her, his professional calm cracking. "With respect, ma'am, you don't know this family. This is between us." "Actually," Mrs. Peaton replied, setting down her champagne glass, "I know exactly what I need to know. I know this young woman has spent years photographing people society ignores, and I know her own family treated her the same way." A murmur spread through the gallery. Guests were staring openly now, the kind of attention my mother had always wanted. Just not like this. Never like this. My mother tried to regain control. "This is a misunderstanding. Family jokes are being taken out of context." "A joke?" Another voice said. A woman in her 60s, silver-haired with a gentle face, the one who had bought a photograph earlier, stepped forward. "Telling your daughter she has nothing important to do. Calling her free help. What's funny about that?" More murmurs followed, heavier now, edged with judgment. The social standing my mother had spent decades building drained away in real time. "I think," Aunt Ruth said calmly, "it might be time for you to leave." My mother's face flushed deep red. My father took her arm. Megan was crying now, real embarrassed tears. Derek stood still, finally realizing his courtroom-style arguments meant nothing here. "Wendy," my mother said, her voice shaking, "you'll regret this." "No," I replied quietly. "I really won't." She turned and left without another word, pulling my father with her. The gallery door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than a slam. Megan lingered, mascara smudged, arms wrapped around herself like a child caught doing something wrong. "Wendy," she said, her voice breaking, "I didn't know you felt this way. I thought you liked helping." "No," I said gently. "You didn't think about it at all. None of you did." Derek put a hand on her shoulder. For once, he said nothing. Maybe he had finally run out of defenses. "I hope your pregnancy is healthy," I added. "I hope your kids are happy. But I won't be their built-in aunt anymore. If you want me in your life, it has to change. It has to be equal." Megan nodded through her tears. "I understand." I wasn't sure she did, but it was no longer my responsibility to make her understand. They left through the same door as our parents. The gallery exhaled as one. Aunt Ruth came to my side and wrapped an arm around me. "You okay?" "I think so," I said, letting out a shaky laugh. "I just confronted my entire family in public at my own art show." "You did," she said, "and you were magnificent." Marcus joined us and handed me a fresh glass of champagne. "For what it's worth, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've never seen an opening night like this." "Is that good or bad?" I asked. He smiled. "Let's just say everyone here will remember your name, and that, Wendy Dixon, is exactly what an artist needs." I looked around at my photographs, my gallery, my new life. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. By the end of the night, I had sold 8 of the 15 photographs. 8 pieces, $14,000 in total sales. My share, 60% as the contract promised, was $8,400. Marcus handed me the printed sales summary as the last guest left. Not bad for an opening night, especially one with unexpected family drama. I stared at the number, $8,400? More than I'd earned in 3 months of part-time accounting work. Mrs. Peaton wants to commission a piece, Marcus added. She has a vacation home in Big Sur and wants you to photograph the coastline. That's how private commissions work. She likes your perspective. He handed me a card, her assistant's contact. Call them next week. I slipped it carefully into my clutch beside the gallery contract and the magazine interview notes. Then Marcus added, Susan says she has enough material for a full feature. They're considering you for next month's cover. A real magazine cover, with my name, my face, my story. That night, Aunt Ruth helped me carry the unsold photographs back to my room above the cafe. 7 pieces remained. 7 unsold meant 8 had found homes. 7 meant people saw value in what I created. I placed the check on my desk, the first I'd ever received for my art, and took a photo of it, not to share, just to remember. Payable to Wendy Dixon, $8,400, proof that I wasn't nothing and never had been. 2 months later, my life had settled into a rhythm. I woke at 5, watched the sun rise over the Pacific, and opened the cafe by 6. Morning shifts until noon, pouring coffee, talking with regulars, learning names, locals who now knew me as Ruth's niece, the photographer. Afternoons belonged to my work. I rented a small studio 3 blocks from the cafe, just enough space for editing and printing. The exhibition had closed, but Marcus had already scheduled another show for spring, a series called Boundaries. Photographs of edges, thresholds, the spaces between belonging and solitude. It felt right. The magazine article came out in October. My face on the cover of Carmel magazine beside the headline, The Artist Who Learned to See Herself. The story was edited, names changed, but the truth remained. The invisibility, the breaking point, the choice. Messages poured in from women who had been the dependable one, the helper, the one everyone relied on and forgot to thank. I thought I was the only one. You gave me permission to leave. Thank you for showing me it's possible. My family reached out too. After the baby was born, a girl named Charlotte, Megan texted a photo. I sent congratulations and a gift card. Nothing more. My mother called once. I didn't answer. Her voicemail asked if I'd gotten this out of my system yet. I deleted it. My father surprised me. His email arrived on a Tuesday evening, 3 sentences long. Wendy, I saw the magazine. I'm proud of you. That one I kept. Today, I'm sitting in my studio looking out at the Pacific. The Canon camera I bought from the pawn shop still sits on the shelf, older, worn, but working. Beside it is a newer model, paid for with money I earned from my art. Both matter. One taught me to see. The other proves I was seen. My second exhibition opens next month, Boundaries. 15 new photographs exploring the edges of connection, where family ends and self begins, where obligation turns into exploitation, where love changes shape. It may be my best work yet. Aunt Ruth stops by every morning with coffee and commentary. Marcus checks in weekly with updates on collectors and opportunities. The cafe regulars now ask for the photographer's table by the window, where I sometimes edit between customers. I'm not rich, I'm not famous, but I'm visible, and that's enough. As for my family, we exist differently now. Holiday cards, birthday texts, occasional updates about the kids. Civil, distant, healthier. I haven't been back to Boston. Maybe someday, but only as a visitor, never as help. Recently, I found an old photograph, a self-portrait taken years ago in my Boston apartment when I was still invisible. The woman in it looked tired, defeated, waiting for permission to exist. I deleted it. She's gone. In her place is someone who takes up space, creates meaningful work, says no when she means no, and yes only by choice. Someone who finally allowed herself to be seen. That's the real story. Not revenge, not triumph, just freedom. From a psychological standpoint, Wendy's experience reflects parentification. When a child, often the eldest, takes on adult responsibilities without recognition or return. She also filled the scapegoat role, while a golden child received attention and resources. The takeaway is simple. Setting boundaries is not betrayal or abandonment. It's understanding that you can't pour from an empty cup, and those who truly care won't expect you to. If you see yourself in Wendy's story, remember this. Your worth is not measured by usefulness. It's inherent. It always was. And sometimes the bravest choice isn't to fight. It's to walk away, build something of your own, and let your life speak louder than any argument. You deserve that. We all do.